Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to Anime King. About yesterday I had a really terrible headache, so I couldn't post any videos. But I got some well-needed rest and now I'm back guys. So, today I'm going to be giving you part 14 of What If Naruto Was the Same Age as Itachi. Remember to get this one to 200 likes as usual, share this to all of your friends in social media platform, and also, remember if you're new and this is the first time you hear my voice, and you enjoy the videos on both Anime King and Anime King 2, go ahead and click that red subscribe button and become a part of the Anime King family. And thank you for all of your help and your support. Remember to comment down below and tell me if you're new. I'll be replying talking back to all of you. So yeah, without further ado, what is to begin this new episode? Start the intro. So, the last part we left off, Naruto challenged the Raikage as they make a specific set of deals. So the Raikage was intrigued as Konoha wouldn't retaliate again against him for 5 years and pay them for every life that they take. As the Raikage agreed, they went to a trench as the Kumo ninjas surrounded them. As the battle started, the Raikage was indeed fast. He was impressively fast so, as both him and Naruto clashed violently, tearing up the stadium that they fought in. As the Kumo ninjas around watch, there was a lot of time when it seemed like Naruto was going to be brought down, as the Raikage was tanking Naruto attacks with his lightning shield around him. But Naruto was able to break through it, as he sent a Rasen shuriken that hurled and exploded upon the man. The Raikage was digged into a trench as one of his arm bracers were ripped off, and the man's knees were shaking violently, as he couldn't stand anymore as he collapsed. So with that, Naruto made his way off, as Sakura was pissed off at him because he wouldn't tell her what happened to him, and he had a lot of injuries. As Naruto came home, as Uncle was waking up for him, as he proposed to her that night. She was so happy as she said yes to him. After that, as Naruto had taken out the mantle of Hokage now, but Hiruzen was still there to give him a few pointers here and there whenever he needed, and that is exactly what he did. As Naruto went by the Uchiha components, he spoke to Mikoto. He hadn't been there in some time now, yes, since Shizu and everything. But he was just embarrassed, not knowing what to do. But she told him that it was okay, as she thanked him for what he did with Sasuke. If it wasn't for them, the team, Sasuke would have remained how he was. And he started coming home and telling her about his day, and that made her happy. As Naruto spoke to Sasuke, asking him to be his best man, when they got news, as Ame had came back, they were so surprised they went by the hospital as he spoke to her, but she really didn't remember anything, as Sakura saw that the bandage used on her was not Konoha established bandages, so somebody has patched her up, as this made Naruto and Hiruzen a bit worried, because someone had erased her mind fully, some sort of genjutsu or something that was used on her, that none of them could point out exactly what it was. Strange things then started to happen. The stone shinobi started to retreat one by one. That was rather strange, knowing Oniki. Sarutobi could not understand what the hell was going on. But it was strange, one platoon after one was going. It was like some messenger was telling them to go back home. But that was rather strange as they didn't know who was exactly behind it or what was really going on. As Naruto had taken the mantle of Hokage personally, with Hiruzen still helping him. As Uncle had made Naruto a coat, similar to his father's but a lot different, as Naruto didn't want any envoys coming back with broken bones for the person who's going to send them after, so he went himself with his team, as they were all tunings now and they got themselves ready, as he was going to bring Tsunade back to the village. Well, he wasn't going to give her an option, she was coming back whether she liked it or not, she's been gone for too long. So yeah guys, so it's basically as we left off. You guys can switch across the place and check it out for yourself. So what is to begin this new episode? Naruto was proud how he trained his students well, because they were able to keep up with the pace that he was going. Even some new green envoy recruits gave out a few hours ago. Even Sakura and Ami, who were quick to tire at first, now could keep up with him. Well, he wasn't going anywhere near his full speed, but he was going at a fast pace. As he slowed back down to a relatively calm pace as they were making their way to find Snazzy. They didn't even complain about their running for so long, but Ami was still a bit confused. Was that really necessary, Sainte? She asked. We don't even have a solid location on Lake Snazzy, as she didn't understand why were they going so fast in the beginning. Maybe, but that means you just have to search harder and faster. I want this mission to be over with as soon as possible. As Naruto knew that it wasn't random that Snazzy avoided tracking pattern. After all, how else was she able to escape the people that she owed so often? Still, no use wasting the time he had with his students. Last known sighting was at Ebusuragai, up in the north. We still have a fair way to go, so I figure I'll teach you each a new technique. We won't be stopping often, so I expect you guys to learn and go. As he saw the sparkle in their eyes. Sakura, I know how much it made Core stress about dodging in the field, but sometimes that just isn't the option. As he went through handstand at a slow pace to show them off. As he slammed his foot down that thick wall, rose up in the middle of the road, useful for blocking routes in your position, and if made strong enough could block even a few jutsus before breaking. As he created a wrestling and shoved it right through the wall. It is not indestructible. As Sakura nodded, she would figure out the strengths and weakness for her technique herself. She was a smart girl after all. Sasuke. As Sasuke straightened, Sharingan already spinning in anticipation. I noticed your fondness for that flame hand trick of yours, so I thought you would appreciate this. It was one of the few main fire manipulation techniques I was able to scrounge up. As he went through hand sign. A moment later, twin streams of fire came on his hands as they started to intensify to his palm as they shrink until he was holding two white knives that was made from flames. It's a bit draining, but they can cut through damn near anything. He tossed Sasuke a glove from one of his many pockets. Thank you, uncle. Be careful learning and using this technique. It is not only dangerous to your enemy. As Sasuke nodded, as he could see the determination in his eye, he then turned to Ami, who was nearly bouncing. What Ami needed was a versatile tool that can work into her blend of skills. This one might be a bit trickier, Ami, because I can't confess to know the technique myself. I've only seen it and re-engineer it. What I could. Fu wouldn't be happy with him, but then again, she was already a prisoner of the village, and it wasn't like he stole the technique or anything. As far as I can tell, the kunoichi that use it apply a thin layer of wind chakra to her feet, like the water walking exercise. But as a nature transformation, then you expand and contract the timing to your movements, and his eyes narrow a bit as he slowly started to bounce on one foot. But he stopped bouncing on the ground as he started to rise up in the air, bit by bit. As Ami watched him as he was levitating in the air before he lost focus, as he hadn't spent much time going over this. Well, you get the idea, he said. Helpful for maneuvering around the battlefield, or escape if need be. As he regretted added a last part, when he noticed some of the happiness drained from her. Too soon perhaps. Still, he said, when you do master the technique, you will have a means of moving incredibly fast, silently, and unpredictably. With that, Ami nodded as she looked at her feet. Right, now you all have a chance to recover, he said, as all of them got a look of terror in their eyes. Let's get going, he said, as he made his way off with the three of them following behind him. Time skip. It wasn't hard to pick up a trace on her. He just had to flash a photo, and many of the gamblers' deaths could pick her out. But he got many leads, and they went to many hotels. But Snazzy had a problem of leaving late in the night, and it made it incredibly hard to figure out where she went, because she didn't notify anyone of the hotels. She just left. The only advantage they had was their speed, as Snazzy was walking around at a civilian pace, according to whatever she was doing. They, on the other hand, zipped through towns at a fraction of the time. But it still took a while. After a few days of this, Naruto slowly started to see a pattern, though. She visited larger towns when she could. She only went to smaller villages when the heats from her gambling debt piled up. She hasn't caused much trouble in a while, so she might head to the bigger, flashier casinos. As they arrived at Miyasagai, where the largest gambling halls were, they made their way inside. There was some sort of festival going on, although that wasn't too surprising. Every town had their own tradition, and always doing things to pull in tourists. Sundown was still a few hours away, so a handful of people were browsing the stall, most of them that weren't set up fully yet. So when they made their way through the town, they weren't really noticed. It took a number of scouting before they struck lucky. They were passing their fifth gambling hall of the evening when they heard a commotion from the other side. Before they could even do anything, a man's head burst through the wall as he looked rather dazed. His eyes widened as the rest of his body broke through as well, as he was followed by a woman who looked like she was worried. She had dark hair and she was clutching a pig. "I'm so sorry about this. She's usually much better at restraining herself." As Naruto looked at her, he knew this woman, Shizune Kato. The records of her were out of date. She has grown up a lot from the little girl that Snazzy had taken to the village with her. The next second, as the one and only Snazzy climbed through the hole, as she seemed a bit wasted, as she tripped over a few loose debris. She wasn't what Naruto expected, as Hiruzen had warned him that she changed her appearance to throw off those that weren't versed in genjutsu. Still, he expected someone of middle age. But she didn't look much older than Uncle as she stumbled out of the gambling den. "That's Jiraiya's teammate," Ami said, surprised, as she brought her image of Jiraiya and an image of Snad together. She seemed a lot younger than Jiraiya. Shizune finished healing the man on the ground, as Snad launched her empty safe bottle at the man's head, forcing her to run away. As Naruto chose that moment to make their presence known. "Tsunade Senju." As Shizune took notice first, her eyes grew wide in panic as they flickered between the Konoha team and her mentor. Tsunade took a moment to turn around because she looked like if she moved any faster, she would fall over. Who's asking?" she said, as her words were a slur. As Naruto flickered from them to the gates in the wall, as he looked back at them, as the owner of the gambling hall was cursing about the destruction of his property. "Perhaps we could move somewhere a bit quieter," Naruto said, earned a grateful look from Shizune. It took a while, but they managed to get her in a bar in a boot. All it took was more liquor. Yes, that's what he promised her. If that was the case, getting her back to Konoha might not be such a big problem. But unfortunately, the moment he brought the idea up, Snazzy threw back her head and started to laugh. As she laughed like that for a good 2 minutes. "You shouldn't find this funny. I'm being serious," said Naruto. "It's time for you to come back to the village." "Or what exactly?" she asked. Naruto had tolerance for people taking advantage of his goodwill, because if he didn't, Uncle would have found strangling her asleep some years ago. That tolerance had a limit though, so when a pressure descended upon the boot, his students snapped their head towards him. "Or you will be branded as an S-rank missing nin under the authority of the 5th Hokage, like you should have been years ago, for flanking your duty for over 2 decades. As it was silent for a while, until Snazzy slammed her hand on the table, nearly knocking over her drink as she started to laugh again. Oh, it's too funny when the young ones try to put up a good front." Naruto leaned back. "You're clearly too drunk to talk to. We'll be back when you sober up a bit." "Yeah, good luck with that," said Snazzy. Naruto stood up to leave, as he was ready to give his team information how to watch the exit of the town. She was going to get away, until she spoke. So, the old goat finally stepped down again. "Who's the sucker that was stuck with that job?" she asked, looking in her sake. Naruto stood there for a moment, until he sat back down. "You're looking at him." As Snazzy looked up to look at him. You don't look at much. What's with the dumb coat?" As Naruto eyebrow twitched. "I suppose you'll be the one sending all the goons after me when this go official," she said. Naruto tilted his head. She didn't seem all that concerned with being on the run. Well, he could see not much difference between the life that she lived now and life that she was going to live if she was branded a missing nin. After all, not many people can take her in. Jiraiya, the sentimental bastard, would probably refuse on principle. So Naruto leaned forward and placed a hand on her shoulder, forcing her to look at him. "I assure you, if I do put that order through, and I will, I'll be the one on your tail." Snazzy made his stare without fear. She grinned as she downed another saucer of sake. Seems like a lot of work for the new Hokage. Don't you have some paperwork to join yourself in or something? Work? Depends on how attached you are to that coat, said Naruto as he leaned back. Snazzy was confused for a moment, until she looked at her shoulder. She saw a Hiroshima marker swirl to life, as it was her uncle's technique. As she sneered at it and pulled her jacket off and threw it at it. "There you go, enjoy the show while you can," she said, as she pulled herself out of the boot, pulling Shizune with her. "Because next time you track me down, I'll start by breaking every bone in your arm." As she crushed the safe bottle in her hand, and there are a lot of them. "Snazzy-sama, please." To everyone's surprise, it was Sakura that called out as she stood in front of the greatest medic. "There are so many in the hospital that can use your help. So many. Who could be so better with your teaching?" As Snazzy looked over at Sakura, realized that she was a medical ninja. So you get your kids to fight your battles now, she asked, not even trying to address Naruto. You're fitting into your position already. As she shrugged past Sakura until Naruto spoke, it doesn't have to be this way. Hiruzen is basically gifting you the hospital. Free run of how things work, entire overcalls if need be. He wants his student back as much as the village need you. Tsunade turned. On bitter thought. Perhaps you're not so much of a good Hokage. The sweet talk is supposed to come before the threatening and negotiation. Well, I was always more for the doer than diplomat, said Naruto. I'm still learning that part. Besides, I've read all about you, what the village took from you, what you lost. I didn't think that you'd come back just because a few bounty hunters were after your head. It was mostly for the old man I even bothered. So, are we done here, she said, or you turned to leave? What I heard though, was that you were a gambler. Tsunade stopped in her tracks. What of it? Well, how about a wager? Time skip. Are you alright, Sakura asked, as she was looking at Shizune. As Naruto and Tsunade were over in the center, in front of a large stone. Well, I'm just kind of resigned to it at this point, says Shizune. Tsunade-sama does what she wants, and I'm just sort of here, she said. Ami frowned. That does sound right, she said, as she walked over as well. Oh, don't mistake me, I mean Tsunade-sama is a wonderful woman. I learned more from her than I could even imagine. She only gets this way when the memories become too bad. Otherwise, she can be quite lovely. Yeah, but what about what you want to do, Ami asked. Shizune simply smiled. What about your sensei, she said. Naruto seemed like a remarkable man himself, challenging Tsunade-sama in a contest of strength like this. As Sakura and Ami shared a look, Sasuke would have joined in on that, but he was currently looking at the pig that was sitting in his lap. Why is this pig wearing a pearl necklace? Yeah, that's Naruto-sensei, Ami said, ignoring Sasuke. Unpredictable as ever. But do you really think he can win, asked Shizune, glancing back at the pair. Somehow, the poor bartender had been dragged into this. Being the referee. I mean, I know Tsunade-sama has a reputation when it comes to gambling, but arm wrestling? Ami and Sakura shrugged. It's Naruto-sensei. Sure enough, the both of them were squaring up their arms, as the bartender was glancing between them nervously. You already have those arm bones crushed earlier than expected, Namikaze, asked Tsunade, as she clenched and unclenched her hand. Just as long as we're still clear about the rules, said Naruto. Yeah, best do it as three. You win. I go back to the village and take up as chief medic. But when I win, Konoha pay off my gambling debts and leave me the hell alone. Naruto nodded as he locked hands with Tsunade. As he looked over to the bartender and gave him a nod, he placed his hand on top of theirs. And after a quick prayer, he started to count down. 3, 2, 1, go! The slam of Tsunade's hand hitting the stone table was shocking as hell. For everyone that was watching, it was like their arms were up one moment and then down to the table in the next moment. There was no in between the arms struggling or anything. Both Shizune and Tsunade was staring fast, as Naruto's students had a smug look on their face. As she recovered quickly, you cheated. Naruto smirked where she noticed there's no such thing. Tsunade reset her features. Well, it won't work a second time. As her arm tensed the moment they grasped hands together, she was ready at any moment. 3, 2, 1, go! The last word was drowned out by the both of them, flaring their power. A thin aura of yellow erupted around Tsunade. Naruto's skin started to turn red as he unlocked the first 3 inner gates. It was a technique he did not like to use, thinking it was too short-sighted and damaging for the advantage it gave. Still, he explored the avenues to increase his speed when he was younger. Currently, 3 gates was as far as he could go. He would have to do something to that guy when he got back. Maybe give him some way to track down Kakashi. But inch by inch his hand was being forced down. 3 gates were a lot, but against her raw strength, he might as well not be doing anything, as his hand was brought down and cracked the stone table. As both let go instantly, as Naruto released the gates as his skin returned back to normal. The gates, huh? Nice trick, said Tsunade, as she thought that she already won. There was only one match left. And not my last, said Naruto as he brought his arm back up. The bartender had passed out in their last exchange as Ami came over and placed her hands above theirs. Kick her ass, sensei, she said, as she looked at Tsunade. 3, 2, 1, go! As Naruto instantly unlocked 3 gates again, as Tsunade let her hand stay where it was. As she didn't try to push him down, she just powered up her and let it stay where it was, as she smirked at him. But Naruto smirked back as he went through the first 2 steps of creating her Rasengan with a hand that was clasped against hers. She was too late to react when his spiraling energy hit her hand, as it smashed against the table, as the table broke in two with Naruto's hand covering hers. "I won," he said. Time skip. Tsunade was surprisingly gracious in her defeat, only trying to escape during the night. Eventually though, after childish resistance, flailing around, complaining, and also name-calling, well, that was mostly Ami, they trapped back to Konoha. It was a sober Tsunade who was being questioned by Sakura. It was quite different for her because Shizune was always there just quiet and accepted what she had to teach. Sakura on the other hand grew up in an environment by Naruto and her superiors of the hospital to ask questions, so that is what she did. And having the world's greatest medicine right here was the opportunity she would never pass up. As Naruto was smiling as he realized he never got to... As he turned his head, "Hi," he said, "we never got to introduce properly." Naruto Namikaze, he held a hand out. After a moment, Shizune took it. As Tonton was still in her arms, no one had asked about the pig yet. They didn't say anything. "Oh, I know, Tsunade-sama might have acted distant and uncaring, but even on our travels, words reach us about the new Hokage." She gave him a strange smile. "Shizune Kato, nice to meet you," she said. As she spoke once more in a quieter tone, "I can't imagine that kind of responsibility for someone so young." "To be honest," said Naruto, "it's not nearly as bad as I thought it would be. Sure, there's a lot of pressure, but I have Hiruzen to ease me in." As he glanced forward looking towards Tsunade and Sakura, "It's your responsibility I'm not envious of," he said. "You and Tsunade-sama got off on the wrong foot, but I'm sure, with time, she will warm up to you," said Shizune. "Despite appearances, she's not one to hold grudges." As Shizune smiled, "But I think this trip home will be good for her." "And you?" said Naruto. She nearly tripped over her feet at such a question. What do you mean?" she asked. "Just a thought," said Naruto. "This whole thing was about bringing Tsunade back to the village. No one asked you what you wanted." Shizune seemed conflicted about that. "I go where Tsunade-sama want me to go. I'm her apprentice." But Naruto just kept on looking at her. "I admit," she said, "it's quite nice to finally come home. It's been a long time since I've seen the village." She chuckled quietly. "I'm sure that has changed so much since I've been a girl." Naruto looked up at the sky. "One, soon to be two old heads," he said. "But you'll be surprised no matter how much it changes or how much it grows. There is just something that is marked. That village at Konoha, no matter what. I think I could be gone for 100 years and still know it by sight." "You have a lot of fond memories then," she said. "Well, my whole life, in one way or another. It must be nice to have a place, grounding in feelings like that." She nearly jumped when he patted her on the shoulder. "Well, if all go well, and Tsunade doesn't pull a runner, you might too." As Shizune smiled, as Naruto realized something, this poor girl has basically dedicated her life to her master, because she didn't really know much else. As he could see that their relationship was a deep one, but giving Shizune some freedom to change would do her a world of good. And if he got Tsunade to grow up and stop acting like a child, it would be a lot better. Although glancing forward and watched Tsunade throw a small stone to the back of Sasuke's head, it didn't seem like anytime soon. "Remind me to introduce you to uncle when you get back. I think you two might get along." "A friend of yours," asked Shizune. "Fiancé, actually. She's pregnant with her first child at the moment." Shizune's smile grew a bit wider. "Oh, I love babies," she said, as Naruto wondered what uncle was doing at the moment. "Meanwhile, so," said uncle, as she tossed a kunai up and down. "We didn't have a good first meeting, granted. What happened?" Fu simply glared at her from across the table. "Look, no need to give me that look. This is supposed to be a friendly chat." As she put away the kunai, "See? Friendly." But Fu didn't say anything. "Alright, I get it, you're a prisoner in enemy village, so you're doing the whole silent thing. But there's no need, you know. The war is over." As she extended a hand towards Fu. "How about we start over?" Fu glared at the hand. "I don't give a crap about all of that. Taki can go and suck one. They abandoned me here when they got caught too much up in this war and ran away with their tails between their legs. Have they even asked for me back?" "Me, not their Jinchuriki," asked Fu. As uncle didn't say anything. "I couldn't give two crap about that village. Cowards, all of them. What I'm trying to figure out is, how the hell does Naruto settle for you?" As the place was silent, you could hear a small needle drop at the moment. 1. As uncle counted to 10 in her head, an exercise that shocked her shoulder. Yes, to relieve some stress. "You're very lucky I'm pregnant, or you would learn if your hair tastes as minty as it looks." Fu simply rolled her eyes. "Can we get through with this already? I was told I will have some Jonin chaperone for a month or two to settle me into the village. Wasn't that how this whole exchange was supposed to go?" Sure, why not, said Uncle, as a man came into the room. This is Inuichi Yamanaka. His family has agreed to sponsor you for your probation. My daughter is quite excited to meet you. Apparently something to brag about a friend of hers. Oh great, said Fu. I've been turned to a life-size accessory. You know, I half expected Naruto to be here, said Fu. As Uncle I twitched at that, as she knew her fiancé was out, looking for Sanin, Snazzy. Yes, well luckily, currently the village has laws to prohibit the Hokage from getting personally involved with Shinobi's transfer. Fu leaned back, so he actually did, huh? As she looked back down, a smile on her face, she realized even if she rallies people up, they won't snap at her. It felt comfortable knowing that a fellow Jinchuriki was actually running the show, as she felt like she wouldn't just be used as a kunai. So, went to wedding, as she heard the door slam as Uncle left. If my daughter asks look in your mind, no matter how much she insists, please refuse, said Inuichi. Yeah, sure. I think I would have anyway. You say that, but she have a way with people. But she's still not ready for Jinchuriki's mind. Yeah, said Fu. As she wished Uncle would come back, she'd rather have anger than whatever this was. He gave off a sweet smile that seemed rather strange at the same time. She didn't know why. Time skip. So, I didn't miss anything catastrophic. Then said Naruto. No, said Hiruzen. Everything has been running quite smoothly. Well then, I guess I better wait for the bomb to drop. What do you mean, asked Hiruzen. Well, I just came back from bringing Snazzy back to the village. A story I would like to hear, said Hiruzen. Yeah, anyway, in my absence, nothing happened, said Naruto. If being Hokage is like anything as being the Envoy captain, soon enough, he said. I think you're being a bit pessimistic, my boy. As Hokage, you have to get to long silences and quiet for a while. But that is stickler, said Naruto. Peace is not for me. I'm a kind of a magnet for trouble sometimes, and you already know that. If you say so, Hiruzen said, as he feel like Naruto was just a bit tired after his trip. But then, just to prove him wrong, Anbu came in the room and handed over a document to Naruto. As Naruto looked at Hiruzen, I'm sure it's just a field report. Something for you to look over, Hiruzen said. As Naruto read through it, I don't even want to tell you that I told you so. What is it? Asked Hiruzen. The Sanbai has destroyed a fishing village on the east coast. Hiruzen's side bitches are always political nightmares. Technically, the Sanbai belongs to Kiri, and this could be anything from an attack and an accident. I'm more inclined to think though, given that they recently have a civil war, we're not dealing with a Jinchuriki. A wild biju then, more problematic. Naruto's fingers started to tap against the decks as he remembered those red eyes and screams and fire that night when everything went to hell. I would advise extreme caution in the matter. We're dealing with extremely delicate situation here, said Hiruzen. How long will it take to organize a political envoy to Kiri? A few days at most, said Hiruzen, given the current climate in Mitsuno Kiri. I think Kiri has had enough time to recover, and we're in a rather unique situation of having a lax ally current. Having access to Kiri trade route would be a boom for Konoha economy. As Naruto stood to his feet, I'll let my team know. It would be a good thing for them to get a crash course on shinobi politics. Hiruzen stopped in his path though. If I might recommend a softer touch, I'm not saying that spending such a amount of time with your team is a bad thing, Naruto, or that they might be unfit for the task. But, you know, as a teacher, they need to find their own path. I know you care for them, and I admit you have done a wonderful job with their training. But you also need to step back every now and then and let them expand on their own. Let them take a few missions with their peers and relax in. To the normal system, oversight can be smothering most time. No offense, said Naruto, but I've seen the effect of hands-off teaching at first hands, and I'm not a fan. Hiruzen looked at him, no offense. Orochimaru will continue to be a stain on my tenure as Hokage for as long as I'm on the main stand. But my point stand, you cannot always be there for them all the time. Sometime. To make sure the people can protect themselves is the best way to protect them. I can see your point, said Naruto after a while. And Sasuke would probably complain about the mix anyway. Ami has been looking for an excuse to hang out with your sister more. And Sakura is needed in the hospital. I'm sure he can hang back a bit more. That's for the best, because other than the rather unique case, he says he looked over to the file. Your team will be back to the decks. I understand, but that just means I have to train them twice as hard when I do have them around. I certainly wouldn't deny you that, said Hiruzen. As Hiruzen's smile came under his face. As the three chonies felt a chill went down their spine. I'll make sure diplomatic. And boy, it's ready to head out as soon as possible. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have my own student to catch up with, said Herson. She's at the hospital, I believe. Says something about getting her new domain straightened out. I'm sure she is, said Herson. Time skip. Who the hell filed these search and forms?